It's been a minute, Michael.
It has been a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Next Network with Josh Berman. I am Michael Mursky. It is March 7th. We are in the NFL offseason, a little under a month removed from the Super Bowl, and we are over a month away from the NFL draft. The NFL Combine has recently wrapped up, so this is prime NFL draft season. I dropped a mock draft on Monday, and I actually made another one, Josh, that I sent you today that I also think I might end up posting because there's a rumor that
Why
the
not?
Broncos are actually going to have a quarterback or get a quarterback soon, like in the next couple of days. Like they're going to be they're
Well,
going to
free
have
agency
their
opens on
guy,
Monday, so
and I did project the Broncos to trade up to number 2 to
I don't see
take
that
Drake
happening.
May. So I don't think that's going to happen anymore. So we'll see if I do end up putting that out, but. The reason all of you are here to watch us today is not for us to talk about the NFL draft, just us two. It's to talk about the NFL draft with someone that is going to be in the NFL draft, that has entered the NFL draft, fresh off the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, edge rusher from Washington State, Brennan Jackson. Brennan, thanks for
That's
joining
a
us.
sick picture.
Dude, guys, I'm in my facility right now. I was like, they're gonna love this backdrop. Thanks for having me, guys. Super excited for this.
Yeah, how you doing?
Oh, can't complain, man. I mean, I was down in Arizona, now I'm back in Pullman. The weather's changed a little bit, so that's one thing I could complain about, but I'm used to it. 6 years here, a little
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a pretty long college career, which is, which we'll get to later. But we met you in the Senior Bowl, which is one of those like all-star games where there's a lot of prospects eligible for it. A lot of the ones, especially towards the top, like the bigger names, tend to lean to more avoiding the Senior Bowl and saving all their energy for the combine and their pro days.
Now they're
And
starting to
then
avoid the combine too.
right, but usually at least the and then for prospects and for a lot of other prospects, so the Senior Bowl is a really important deal. Now you were at the Senior Bowl, and you were also at the Combine, which are obviously two very different events, but you're still being compared to. You're still going one on one. You're still doing drills with other draft prospects. So I'm curious if you can kind of go through your process at the combine, go through your process at the Senior Bowl, and maybe we can compare them.
Yeah, so I mean, the Senior Bowl, that's kind of like a slice of an all-star game. Obviously, it was an amazing opportunity to go there, and I really appreciate Nagy for having me down in Mobile. It was really awesome. But you kind of get more of a football sense from us as prospects. You see us in drill work, like you said, running through special teams. The coaches get like a hands-on experience with us to see, okay, how are these guys going to be, when we coach them at the next level. So that was a really cool experience. You're getting learning from NFL coaches. You're in NFL meeting rooms. You're with a lot of guys who are across the country that you get to actually play with as teammates. And there's a lot of connections that get made there. And it kind of makes that combine experience even easier because now when you get to the combine, now it's just you. Like you're competing against yourself while you're also competing against other guys. But there's a sense of familiarity because you've already been with the dudes you're at the combine with. These are at the Senior Bowl. And that was one of the easiest ways for me to kind of acclimate into the combine was, hey, these are guys I was training with. These are guys I met the Senior Bowl, right? Like there's that the nerves aren't as pumped up because you're like, hey, we're all going through this together. And now it's like we're just rooting for each other. We're all obviously competitive guys, but hey, like I want him to do just as good as I do. And so everyone's going to get picked higher. And that's the whole point of it all.
Did you make any really? Is there any players in particular that you kind of got close with at the Senior Bowl?
Oh yeah, I would say JD Bertrand from Notre Dame was super cool. I got to hang out with him a lot while I was there. And obviously, like me and Latu have been trained together. So me and him, we were roommates at the Senior Bowl. So that was awesome. Being with those guys, getting to talk to some offensive linemen like Roger Rosengarten from Washington. Again, we're rivals, but I mean, the dude's like really awesome to be around. Super, super chill.
Good too.
Very good. Very good. Trust me, I know how good he is.
Yeah, I mean,
But the whole experience is amazing. You're just with a bunch of guys who are competitors, and you get to kind of toss ideas off each other and really get to hear their stories.
I want to ask you actually about Rosengard since you brought up Rosengard. I want to ask you about the Washington game. That Apple Cup game this year was very intense. It was probably the best rivalry game in college football this year. The way it came down to the wire. Unfortunately, not necessarily the way you guys wanted it to end, but it was still a physical game throughout, and it was very entertaining. But being in those big college football games, and you got you got to play in college football for a very long time, and you were in a lot of those big games, and you play in the Pac-12. You play for one of the two schools left in the Pac-12, and
Yeah.
it's a big atmosphere. So, like, just
Pac-2.
playing in that, like, what does that mean to you?
Gosh, I mean, we don't like those guys over there, and that's kind of the whole point of this rivalry. You get guys who are from the city, who are from the Palouse, the Rolling Hills, but really, when it comes to those rivalry games, there's a different kind of energy that goes into it, and you really got to be dialed in each those weeks, especially during film study, during practice, because you realize like these guys, no matter how their season's going, they're going to give you their best, and that was like with us. So we didn't have the best season. I mean, we did at one point, and then we kind of tailed off a little bit, but Washington got our best because it's a rivalry game. You can't sleep into those games. And like I said, there's one play away from us taking them down. And then you see where they went to. They went to the playoffs. So it's like, hey, you can't take any team lightly, especially when it's a rivalry. And those games were just the best. I've been on the winning side, I've been on the losing side of them. But I mean, that's what college football is all about.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about team meetings, which I'm going to get to in a second, but you mentioned a player that still pretty early on in this draft process might be the number one player that I think is getting really underrated, and that is Latu. I think he is a dog. I think whoever gets him is going to get a really, really, really good player. So what about him have you seen that just he can become this player that I think the next level is going to be someone that you can plug and play and immediately will make an impact on a team?
I mean, first things first, like locker room guy. I mean, he's someone you want in a locker room. I've been with him for 2 months now, and he's already just been like a bright spot every day. Just someone who's always smiling, ready to go to work. But I think the big reason why he's going to be so effective at the next level is he's so tactical. Like, that's the best way I can put it. Like he is so fundamentally sound. The way he moves, he does it with a purpose. There's a reason why he's doing what he's doing. He finds himself in positions where he can win and have an advantage against offensive linemen. And watching him do that during this whole process, this draft process, you really got to see how clinical he is with his steps, his footwork, his hand usage, his IQ of the game. Like he's just naturally talented, but he also works so hard at that stuff. And that's why I was blessed to be down there at Exos, to be around these kind of athletes and kind of pick from their games. But I mean, you can watch the Senior Bowl. I mean, you guys were there. You just see he's just very clinical, very tactical in how he rushes. He can play all positions on the field. We saw him in college. He can do it from a 3-point. He can do it from a 2-point. He can be down inside from a nose rushing. Like he's just very, very versatile in what he does. And I think whatever team takes him, like you said, I mean, you're getting a guy who's going to work as hard as he possibly can. He's going to produce. He absolutely is.
Absolutely. He's a plug and play guy. Now, I know we're getting into team meetings, Zooms, in person, top 30 visits, all this stuff starting to come in. And my favorite thing that you always hear are the weird stories out of team meetings. I'm not going to ask you which teams, but if any teams asked you anything that was like, what? That was a weird question. Have you gotten any of those yet? 'Cause I love those stories.
I mean, most of mine weren't too bad, thankfully. They were all pretty chill, pretty easygoing. One was stressful because they have you do like they want to see how you can multitask. So one of them had me like drawing a play up while answering questions, while answering their questions, and they popped me with like a question, "What's the worst thing you've ever done?" And I'm like, okay, I'm settled in. I'm not thinking. I got to answer this right. Like I don't want to. So that was one that like almost caught me off guard. Now, granted, I've never done anything bad. But it's still like one of those questions you hear and you're like, start sweating. You're like, oh gosh, like, have I done something bad? Did they know something I don't know? Like, did I do something wrong? But besides that, no, it was really just trying to keep you on your toes. I mean, it mostly was like play call stuff and scheme and like they want to get to know you as a person. But yeah, I definitely heard some of the nightmare stories you guys are talking about.
Yes, you had any interaction with the Ravens at all?
I did have an interaction with the Ravens. I did have a meeting with them.
So those meetings were in Indianapolis, right?
Correct. And then there was some in the Senior Bowl, but those are more just fluid. You're walking around a room meeting with all teams, but no, the combine, the way they had it set up, I mean, you're in a room, like you said, you go in, you talk, and it was really cool, that whole experience. And obviously, there's nerves involved, but I just try to be myself as best as possible because that's what they want to see. They want to see who you are as a person.
So when you were at the combine doing this stuff, was it like what you expected, or is it kind of awkward, or was it like, did you know exactly what you were getting into, how you were doing it? Because obviously you'd never done it before. Like, how was that?
I mean, I've been getting that question a lot, especially being back in Pullman. Like my teammates are asking me, and it said the same thing every time. It's like it's what you expected, but there's like those gaps you don't realize. Like there's gaps in what you expect to do, and then it's like, whoa, I did not expect to be doing this for that long. So, like for example, when I'm watching on TV, you think we're there for like 2 days and you leave. No, we're there for like a week. So it's like I didn't realize how much stuff you're actually doing while you're in Indianapolis. Because they make it seem like you're only there for like 2 days. So that caught me off guard. Just the sheer like size of what was happening, like the magnitude of what was going on, that caught me by surprise. So I'm like, dang, this is like you walk in, you're like, wow, this is really the NFL combine. Like I'm really here in Indianapolis doing all this stuff. And you kind of get taken back to like a young age, like kind of starstruck for a second. Then you got to lock it in because, hey, this is what we're doing. But that was definitely the biggest thing for me was getting those initial reactions of like, I'm at the combine. Whoa, this is crazy. You just got to be like, okay, this is all business. Like I'm here for a reason. But yeah, it definitely was what I expected with a little bit of twist here and there.
So like, what was there? Like, how did you go from like drills to like interview? Was it like in the stadium? Was it in like a hotel? Did that process work?
So we all stay in a hotel, like scouts, players, coaches, all stay in a hotel. Then you walk to the stadium, and the stadiums where like all your main stuff takes place. That's interviews because they have like the suites you go into. That's all the drill work. That's all the medical stuff and all that. So you're in the stadium for about 80% of it. But then you're also like in the hotel and you're doing stuff in there. And then you have like all your like training facilities will come by and they'll like set up suites across the street from like at a different hotel, and you'll be doing like position work in there. You'll be doing starts. So it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, we're by Lucas Oil Stadium. It's a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it's the NFL
How they do
combine.
it. Yeah. But I mean, there's just times where you're kind of like, gosh, when's there going to be a break? Like we're doing this all day, but you got to get it because they have so many people they have to get through. There's a lot of things they get to see from you, and yeah, I mean it's an amazing experience. I tell guys like if you have the opportunity and you're blessed to go there, like just enjoy, take every second of it, and realize like this is only to better your future. So you got to handle it the right way, but still take a second to kind of just breathe it in and be like, wow, like I'm actually here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You want me to go or you?
Oh, sorry. I'm up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I
doing this.
completely forgot that I was up. Yeah, because we had like a series of like questions prepared, but like I was trying to think of something else like to ask about
Segue, Michael. Segue.
about the combine. Actually, I do want to before I move on from the combine, I actually would like to ask you something else about it because the 40-yard dash is something that's I think has always been like people always kind of look at that. Everybody's like looking like, oh my God, what's the 40 time he's gonna run? I was looking at there was over under on FanDuel for 40 times, but like realistically for
opinion between me and you here.
yeah, for like a position like what you play as opposed to like a receiver corner, I feel like once after that 10-yard split, the other 30 yards don't really mean too much. Why? Like, what is it about the 40-yard dash in t-shirt and shorts that's so hyped up, you think?
Great question, guys. And honestly, I'm right with you. Like I always say, like if I'm a DN and I'm running 40 yards downfield, something bad happened.
Right.
I shouldn't be running 40 yards downfield.
Yeah.
Something bad, terrible has happened.
Right.
But I guess like if I'm looking at it from a scout's perspective, I think the biggest thing that I don't think people take into account all that often is how does somebody take their preparation and do it to game day experience? Like, how do you handle your nerves in that moment? I think sometimes it's less about the time and does this person perform under pressure? I really do, because the 40-yard dash is probably the most nerve-wracking thing you're going to do at the combine, because it's literally just you, a strip of white, and there's like thousands of people watching you, and they're going to talk about you. You're the only person on screen. And so I think a big reason why the 40 is so overhyped to scouts is, the time is very important, breakaway speed, whatnot. But I think it's like, okay, this is a guy that's said that they would do this or shows their game speed to be this. Can he perform under pressure? Can he actually show that while all eyes are on him, right? So I think that's a big reason why we put so much stake into the 40-yard dash, because that's the most pressure you're going to feel until you get to the NFL because it's only you.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool perspective. See, that's why, like, I'm glad we got to talk to you. But that makes sense. I feel like mentally, it's so the process for you. Like, you're going to be in the NFL. You're taking the next step with all the other guys in this combine, and they're all the scouts. They're all looking at each and every one of you under a microscope and like stuff like that. Like those little details. Obviously will be like what builds up your resume outside of the film.
It's probably also what leads to overthinking though too, when guys slide that shouldn't, because they pick up on these little things that sometimes might not even matter, but then sometimes they do, and that's kind of why it's an art to it.
Yeah, it's like you see a guy who runs a slower 40, but you watch his game tape and he runs faster. It's like, okay, I mean, yeah, it's a great example, but then it's like, okay, did he just like in the moment came, was he not prepared for it? Okay, slides, but still an amazing player. So I think you got to take it serious, but also realize that there's so much in the body of work and it's just one slice of the cake.
So I remember when Orlando Brown Jr. was in before the combine, he was a surefire first round pick. Had a terrible combine. Like they were saying it was a historically bad
bad, yeah.
That's like what they were talking about. Ravens draft him in the 3rd round. He was a superstar tackle at Oklahoma. Ravens draft him in the 3rd round. His father played for the Ravens. And the Ravens drafted him in the 3rd round. And he'd plug and play, and he's one of the top like tackles. Like it's like one of those things. I just feel like the combine at that point, you're saying like what was, I guess he crumbled. Maybe he crumbled under pressure, whatever it was at the combine. But then he goes up against these superstar AFC North players and then dominates them. So I feel like
two pretty good edge rushers in that division.
Yeah. So, how much of that like is
3 actually,
even
Hendrickson?
Yeah, I mean, and then like you said, with stories like that, that's why I feel like you can't put too much stake onto one event. Because like I said, there could be guys in this class who don't test as well, but go to the next level and are absolute all-stars. So I think the combine's a great experience overall because you get to kind of have a glimpse of the athleticism of some guys. But that's not the end all be all, because realistically, the number one thing is like, how do these people perform in a game? And the combine isn't a game scenario. You're doing drill work and, like you said, t-shirts and shorts. But overall, I think it gives you at least a little bit more information about a player. But like I said, if you're making your whole decision based upon how they do at the combine, it's like, because you could be missing a diamond somewhere just because of a bad combine performance.
Yeah. Right. Something that I've noticed, not just with you, but with a lot of defensive end edge rushers coming into the draft, whenever someone asks them who their favorite edge rushers are, it seems like every single one of you guys says Max Crosby. And I mean, it's with good reason. He's a monster. But when you compare him to a guy like TJ Watt, a guy like Myles Garrett, who I've always said, Myles Garrett's like a mutant. Like you can't like just try and be Myles Garrett. People aren't built like that. Like there is no other human on the planet that is what Myles Garrett is. But when you have someone like Max Crosby, who's just so good, what is it about him in particular you think that it seems like everybody's trying to emulate him?
I think you said it with like the whole Myles Garrett argument, because it's like, yeah, Myles Garrett is phenomenal, but it's like he's, like you said, he's one of a kind, right? He's God-given talent. Whereas with Max Crosby, it's like you see why he's so good. It's because he works so hard and he has a nonstop motor and he plays every single play like it's his last play. And I think for me, especially, I model my game after that, because I think there's so much disruption in a football game that can happen from just going 100%. Right? You look at Max Crosby, obviously technique is there. He's got good hand use. He has good moves. But then there's some plays he makes just because he is running to the ball wherever it's at. And he's running by guys. He doesn't tire out. He just keeps going. He's relentless in his pursuit. Like, that's something we can all possess. We can all possess a high motor. That's a choice. Right. Like, effort's a choice. So I think a lot of, at least me, if I speak for myself, is I know I can be like that because that's a choice that I have to make. It's not like hey, I have knees that can touch the ground while I'm running past a offensive tackle, right? Like there's some things that you can't, Myles Garrett can do that people can't do. But with Max Crosby, I have to say that he has things that we can all do, but it's just like that core fundamental of his game, the hard work, the passion he plays with, the relentlessness. like that's something that we can all aspire to be because it's a choice we have to make within ourselves.
Yeah. This is a funny thing with Max Crosby. The Dolphins were the in-season Hard Knocks team this year, and I told myself I was going to watch that, and then I watched one episode, enjoyed it, and then was like, I'm going to watch this every week, and then never did again. But the one episode that I did watch was happened to be the week they were playing the Raiders, and they were showing Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff talking to Tua about how to handle Max Crosby, and it was really funny because they're talking about how, yeah, be prepared for this and that, but also be prepared after the play, he's going to shove you. After the play, he's just gonna like knock your hand down just to get in your head. Is there elements in your game like that's just like, okay, he's good, he can do this and that, but just watch for this little thing he's gonna do? Is there anything like that in your game? Because I found that really funny when I saw that.
I think for me, one of the things I like to do in a game is I like to get an offensive lineman to like get comfortable in a sense, not in the sense of like get comfortable in his game, but I think loosen his guard up because I'm not a big trash talker. Like I'll just beat you and go back to the line. So one of my favorite things is when like offensive linemen try and talk trash to me and it just goes one ear out the other. I don't show any reaction to it because then they're like, dang, like he's beating me. I'm trying to talk trash. He's not talking to me. Right. Or like I'll try to get off their game by like the first series of the game. I'll say, what's up? Like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's your name? Like, chilling? You doing good? Right? Just to make them think like, oh, I'm their buddy. I'm not your friend. Like, not at all. I'm not one bit your friend. I want to beat you every single play, but the whole point is to make it to where in their head, it's like, oh, he's beating me, but he's still a good guy. Like, what do I do? So that's one thing I like to do. And also with quarterbacks, yeah, to tap them on the back, like run by them, like say their name when you're running by them. Because it's like for them, it speeds up their internal clock. Because they feel pressure. It's like, oh, I got to get out faster. He's going to hit me. It's really just a mental warfare down there in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you were in college football for a very long time, and you had many influences in the game that have shaped your career. I wanted to ask you about your first head coach at Washington State, Mike Leach, who's a legend, obviously a college football legend, the late Mike Leach. But he is somebody that so many players and coaches too have said like that have influenced them more than maybe any other coach. What do you think it was about Coach Leach that he had that ability to be that kind of leader?
I think Coach Leach just had a brain that was built for football, like just to get the most out of players. He didn't believe in, I think one of the biggest things he didn't believe in was, oh, I need to get this player because he's the best player in the country. Like he got players that knew would fit his scheme and would be successful. And so that's why you had like guys like Anthony Gordon who broke the Pac-12 passing record, right? You had guys like Gardner Minshew that no one wanted except for a GA position. Mike Leach finds him as like, you're going to excel in this system. And he really propelled a lot of guys' careers. Like for me, like I'm at Washington State because he saw me in high school and was like, hey, this guy can fit our scheme and be successful, right? So there's an immediate impact there, but also just who he was off the field too. Like he's just a bright mind. His mind moves 1,000 miles an hour. And most of the time, it's not even about football. Like, it's about random things. So it's like you realize just how down to earth he is and how he's fascinated by things that are completely outside the realm of football. And you can have an honest conversation with them for 25 minutes and not even bring up your play from practice once. You can talk to him on the side of practice and he'll ask you about something completely random, like how his hatred for candy corn, right? Or he'll talk about like he was so unique as a character and as a coach. And I just thank him so much for the opportunity he gave me and all the times we got to talk and sit down and just how he really invested into everybody in this program and every program he was at. And honestly, I think his impact is going to be lasting in this game forever.
Do you think he would like the NIL stuff, all that's going on, the conference realignment? What do you think he would think about that?
Well, no one likes conference realignment.
He would not like it. No.
But like
he would have a lot of funny press conferences about that. I can guarantee there'd be a lot of funny sound bites from those.
And what's like next year? It's just Washington State and Oregon State, right? And they're playing like a Mountain West schedule. Is that what it is?
I mean, I guess like I always said when I was here, it's above my pay grade, and now I graduated the Pac-12 athlete, so we'll see what happens.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, my kids will know I played in the Pac-12. They'll be like, "What's that?" And I'll be like, "Oh, let me tell you about a time. USC, they were in the Pac-12. What are you talking about? They've always been the Big Ten. Oh, no, not always.
Yeah. I think it's some of it's insane. Like Cal and Stanford in the Atlantic Coastal Conference is
Yeah, because that makes sense.
right. Obviously,
I have like my whole thing with this, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, shut up, doesn't matter." Like my thing is, like we're still students at the end of the day. Like that's tough to
yeah,
travel all the way to the East Coast
yeah.
and
On a
then come all the
Friday,
way back.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's like it's tough. Like that's not easy. Like even us going to Wisconsin was tough. I'm like it's just doing that consistently throughout the year. You're gonna do it at least 4 times. Like it's a time change. It's
it's
crazy.
it's a significant time change. Rutgers and USC will be playing each other every year, or UCLA. Like it's gonna be one of them is gonna have to go 6 hours by plane, 3 hours
Hmm.
ahead or behind on a Friday, or I don't even maybe even the Thursday would have to be.
But then
That's the
you're
thing
missing
for the
class.
NFL is going across the
Exactly.
country.
Like it's no, but the NFL, that's you're not a student in the NFL.
That's your
Right.
job.
And I'm
And so it's
saying
like,
it's still
hey,
an adjustment
Right.
in the NFL.
yeah,
Of course, but it's different. Whereas like you're
Yeah.
training like from the morning to night, your whole thing is about the game. You're not taking classes. Like it's
yeah.
completely different.
I mean, put it this way. Let's say Rutgers and UCLA are playing, right? Playing on a Saturday. Their game is at 7 p.m. like Pacific time, right? So that's 10 p.m. for Rutgers, right? Where they're coming from. That's 6 hours there. Game starts at 7 p.m. It's basically 10 p.m. Their game finishes at around 10:30, right? So that's already 1:30 their time. Oh, by the way, 6 hour flight back. And now you can't even sleep because it's already 6 a.m. where you get back. It's already the day of. And hey, by the way, you have class on Monday. It's like
Yeah.
that's crazy
That's
to
gonna
me.
be
Like,
the reality next year. Yeah, I can't
just
believe it's gonna. Yeah,
I feel so
Nice.
bad. It's just, I mean, I get it. I understand why it's happening. Like, obviously, there's so much money to be involved, and you're opening new markets.
right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I just feel. I sound so old saying this, but I feel for the kids, man. I feel for them. Like that's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah.
I mean, speaking of which, like I didn't realize this until I did some research on you, how long you were in college for. You
Yeah.
spent 6 years at Washington State.
How old are you actually? Because Josh and I were not
No,
able
we
to
couldn't
find
find it.
this.
It was like nowhere.
Yeah,
Would you like to guess how old I am? I'll tell you if you
Well,
guess it
my
right.
guess would be 24.
that's what I would think.
Mm-mm,
25,
mm-mm, mm-mm.
No, it'd be
23.
23 then, because there's no
23.
way.
I'm 23.
23,
I'm
23.
23.
Okay,
If I was
well, okay,
24,
so
I
that's
wouldn't even
actually
be.
not even that.
Yeah, 23 would be.
Well,
Okay.
I got there. I got to college when I was 17, and my whole goal was like 3 and out. So that didn't
Right.
work. And then, well, technically 3 and out, but just multiply it by 2.
There you go.
But it was like I said, there's a lot of turmoil my first 3 years. Obviously, I had the 2 season-ending injuries, and then I had the COVID year that happened for everybody. But then it was like, okay, well, once I got my foot in the door, like starting, I was like, I'm not leaving this up for grabs. Like, I'm going to take this spot and do it for the next 4 years. So like for me, it was I think the biggest change was just how I attacked my injury compared to how other people attacked theirs or how other people just handled the off time. For me, it's like I had no distractions. Like I didn't believe in distractions. I didn't do anything that wasn't going to better me for football or school. So in these 6 years, well, it's a long time in school. I accomplished a lot more than a lot of people would have thought to be possible in 6 years. Like I got my degree in 3, I got my master's as well, like both those paid for. I could have got my master's earlier, but they wanted to elongate it so I could have one more year. And then, like I said, I was a 4 year starter, 4-time Pac-12, like all Pac-12 player. I made it onto like the top 10 career sacks board from my school. So I made a legacy here. And yeah, it took me a little longer to get there, but that's just my story. You know, like that's just what happened. And I think just understanding that everyone's story or everyone's past can be a little bit different depending on what they have to go through and just focusing on your own race. It doesn't matter how long you were there, how short you were there, you can still make a lasting impact and be proud of what you did. So yeah, 6 years in college is a great thing to say because it's like, oh, it's so much experience. But at the same time, it's like I wouldn't change it because it made me who I am today.
Yeah. We got a guy in the chat
It
here. What
was
was your major?
business management, right?
Business management and an MBA as well. No less
And
of seeing that.
you got hold on, you had
Got your little
what's
notes
the
there and your
what's
spotting
the honor?
charts.
I just had this up. Pac-12 Conference Academic Honor Roll, which that was the
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Congratulations.
That's pretty
Thank
sick.
you.
Yeah.
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 I was also like an all COSITA, all district like student athlete too, which is like a big thing for
Yep.
academics. Like I took that stuff very serious. Like as much as I would love to say like school was hard, it really wasn't. I was just pretty decent at
Cannot
it. Like,
relate.
yeah. I've always been a pretty good student. I just kind of pick up on things fast. And I know that's just a skill that I've had. But I always tell the guys, like, it's crazy. I'll say it. But a lot of times how you're doing it in the classroom kind of translates to how you do on the field. Because if you're stressed about classes, you probably won't play as well. So that's kind of what my whole thesis that I've come up with.
Right.
Works.
All right. I wanted to ask you. You know, you look at all the edge rushers in this class, and obviously they're all different, and they play different, and they look different on the field. I'm a big uniform guy. I'm a big jersey
Oh, yeah.
guy.
Yes, you
And
are.
there's in college, there's numbers you get with the teens, and now you're gonna get that in the NFL too, in the single digits. But for the D linemen, usually we're in the 90s or the teens, I guess, in college, or the 50s or so. Number 80
Oh,
as an
yeah.
edge rusher. I'm kind of curious. Was that like a natural thing? You just picked the first jersey you got? What was the thought behind that?
I see people like always like they're like, oh, this guy's a me guy. Like all he cares about himself. He's number 80 is the deal. No, like I'm not even kidding. The only reason I'm number 80 is because our punter had the same number as me and he didn't want to change his number. So I got stuck to be the one changing my number. My number is number 94. I was completely content with that. I was like, 94 is a cool number. It's fine. It's a DN number. And they're like, no, you have to change it. And I'm like, oh, well, what are the options? Well, we got 63, we got 7. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be 63. I'm not going to be 72. He's like, well, we got 80. And I'm like, you know what? Give me 80. Like, it's fine. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, do you want to change it? I'm like, no, like you gave me 80. So I'm just going to keep it. Unless
Right.
someone's going to take my number again, like I'm just going to keep the number.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very unique. Everyone's like, oh, are you a tight end? I'm like, not quite. But I think it's cool. I think it's different. You don't see it very often or really ever. And just, yeah, it's me.
Right. So the NFL changed their rules with the jersey number, and I don't know if. Yeah, I think you are. You're allowed to now as a defensive lineman wear number
so.
80. Would you want to in the NFL if that's available?
I mean,
Let's go with number 8.
realistically, yeah, I'd probably go number 8 before 80. Like, I think in the next level that'd be a little tacky. Like I said, I'm not like completely sold on the number. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I need number 80. I was just like, for honestly speaking, like the reason I kept it for all these years was a little bit just me holding a grudge. I was like, I'm just gonna keep it because it's whatever at this
Yeah.
point. But in the NFL, I'm not gonna go into an office and be like, hey, I need number 80. Like any number, I'll take 62 at that point. If it keeps me on the roster. Like we'll do that.
Right.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap up here with something that I think is interesting. I thought of this idea where there's a million draft people out there. So what you can do is literally you can look up Brennan Jackson's scouting report. I just clicked on the first one. I'm gonna read it to you. I want to hear what you think about it. I want to hear it.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna this is literally the first link, which is NFLDraftBuzz.com. Brennan Jackson, edge, Washington State. Let's see. This is what the actual scouting report online says. Strengths. Jackson wins with all-out hustle, second and third effort, and will contribute to the NFL. That's pretty good. That's good.
I like it. I like that. Makes sense.
Excellent motor, shows the stamina to last deep in the fourth quarter, won't get tired. That's
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds
flashes
about
strength
me.
to the point of attack with active, violent hand use, forceful with his upper body to defeat blocks, a strong hustle player.
I'm seeing a common theme here with the hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Offers some versatility, rushing from a 2 and 3 point stance with playing speed to stand up in the space. Flashes strength as a bull rusher, and his energy doesn't plateau. It's all about the energy here. That's what it is.
There it is.
Possesses intriguing blend of size and movement skills. Jackson has good length, wide shoulders, and long arms. And Jackson has room to add weight if he wants to.
Yeah. Yeah.
When are we getting to the?
Let's hear the negatives.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
negatives
there
are
was
I really
one more
want to hear.
strength, and then there are the 3 negatives.
Okay, cool.
This is the
Let's hear
last
'em.
strength. It says plays with leverage at the point of attack, whether inside or outside. Keeps eyes in the backfield when inside. Moves linemen to the either side with strong hands. So those were the
Got it.
strengths. And then
Nice. Let's do the negative.
they have 3 weaknesses. He's not a guy who can be put on the edge every single down and be expected to consistently create pressure. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. It seems kind of counterproductive because they just said I have like a won't
they
tire
just
out
said that you
mentality.
have
that
energy.
doesn't make sense.
I'm just reading what they said. You know, like
They just said you have energy, and then they said you don't have energy. That makes no
I
sense.
mean, fair enough. I mean, you know,
Here's
tomato.
Stands up well against the run, but is very pursuit conscious and will take unneeded wide angles.
We have a way we like run to the ball here, so that probably is why. Like I do that. I do agree. Like I do be bananing sometimes.
And then this is the last one. Jackson is so eager to get upfield that he often abandons responsibilities against the run.
But didn't he say I'm good against the run? I don't
yes,
get
the last one. The one right above it says you're good against the run.
Maybe, yeah. You know, I mean, I love like all that stuff. It's just things that I just need to work. Like, I'm not a big like, oh, like if I hear someone say I suck, I just ask for a reasoning why. Like, I just want to know why I suck so I can get better. You know what I mean? Like that. I like just criticism with no like reasoning behind it. I just don't even pay attention to.
Yeah.
But if someone's like, hey, you suck, and here's why. Cool, let's fix it. Let's make it so I don't suck as much. You know. But that's awesome.
The Draft Network said needs to build a pass rush plan.
Definitely. Pass rush plan is like the most important thing that I've been working on this, especially with Latu, just kind of getting how he attacks the offensive tackle and how he can set them up for later stuff. I do think a lot of my rushes I've won are because of my power and I just overpower people and get by them. But the next level, that's definitely something I need to work on. So I agree with that.
Trent Williams is pretty 100%. Strong.
Yeah, he is very strong.
When you say pass rush plan, do you mean like plan throughout the game, or do you mean on every rep?
It's a mixture of both. It's like what you're going to do on this rep, and if it doesn't work, what's your counter, and then how are you setting them up for the third and fourth quarter. So that's like what pass rush plan kind of means there.
So on that subject of like the scouting reports and the NFL draft analysts, Pete Prisco, one of the top
Ravens hater.
Yeah, he
massive Ravens hater.
Regardless, one of the top like senior CBS sports writers tweeted 1 hour ago, about like an hour and a half ago.
I liked it. I liked it. I know what you're gonna say.
One of my favorite guys in this draft so far, Brennan Jackson, tough, powerful, plays hard all the time.
Guarantee you he wants you to go to the Steelers.
No, but when you see that realistically from a guy like that who's very respected within like the sports media industry, and that helps like a lot of more people see that. What does that mean to you? This is like you've made it, like you've crossed now this threshold where you're not considered a college player anymore. You're now an NFL draft prospect.
I mean, seeing stuff like that is just one, it kind of just validates all the hard work I've been doing. To see people see the game like how I see it, like why I do it the way I do it, the hard work, the relentlessness, the violentness of how I play. So seeing that stuff kind of like gives me the confidence, like, hey, I'm doing it the right way. But also it's a reminder, like, this is why you're here. It's because of these traits. Never lose that. So anytime I see anything like that, I always appreciate it. But at the same time, never get too high, never get too low. I think that's a big reason why I'm able to take criticism and coaching so well, is because I agree that I'm not a finished product yet. There's so much stuff I can get better at. And I'm excited for that journey to get better in any way I can.
One more thing before we let you go. We talked about what other people say in their scouting reports, and we've talked about what you think about some other players that are entering the league or in the league now. But you're making a pitch to an NFL team. What are you telling them that they have if they pick you?
You have a guy who's going to be relentless. You have a guy who's going to be the hardest worker in the room. A guy who's going to challenge the guys in the room. Is going to make them better while making himself better. And honestly, you have a guy that the minute you give him a key card to the building, that's all he needs. Someone's going to get 1% better every single day and do whatever it takes to be a standout player at the next level and win championships.
And according to our comments, the funniest guy at the Senior Bowl.
I guess. I mean, gosh, I try to be. I try not to be a brick wall to talk to.
No, you're definitely not. You got to do like media something after you're done.
I had a podcast for a while, so I've done that kind of stuff.
That's not surprising.
People have said I'm good at talking. So
if on the small chance you go to the Ravens, I'm reserving the spot right now. We should do like a weekly,
I agree.
Weekly game preview show if you get
I like
drafted
that.
by the Ravens, we get first dibs on like a guest.
I'll tell you
appearance.
what. I get drafted by the Ravens. You text me the day of, and then we'll set it up.
Let's
Perfect.
go.
I'll be expecting if
All
I
right.
get picked by the Ravens. I expecting a text in our group chat we have. Hey,
Yes.
Brennan,
There
we're
you
doing
go.
it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
100%.
We just need
All
you,
right.
but we just need you. If it's not Baltimore, you need to stay out of the North. That's the thing.
Trust me, I have no pick here, guys. I'm waiting for my name to get called.
All right. Well, I appreciate
Awesome.
you coming on. Thank you, and good luck the rest of the
Yeah,
way
man.
in the draft process.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on. Keep doing your thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure, man.
Bye.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye. All right. There you go.
First of all, before we wrap this up, now I'm not talking about just us in terms of us talking. In terms of any NFL draft prospect, he is one of the easiest guys to root for I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He really is.
There were guys that like I talked to even off camera, and they were like an immediate turn off for me. Like if I was a GM, I wouldn't
Right.
draft. Like I wouldn't even draft them because like not
And
just the
he's
way
the
they
exact
treated
opposite.
like the media, the way they treated like their players. Like there was guys you could tell like were by themselves. Nobody wanted to
Yeah.
talk. Like I'm not going to mention what players, but there are players I could
Yeah,
tell
I
you
saw it
straight
too.
up in this draft that like I would stay away from character-wise, and there were other ones like him that I thought were like
I mean, he was surrounded by
completely.
it. He was opposite. He had
You could tell, like,
teammates surrounded by him
yeah,
that
like
he met that week.
people went to him, and not just because he was like a senior guy, 23 years old, and like he is
Let's be
like
real. Most of those
he
guys probably
was
don't even know that. They went to
helping
him because they
people.
like him.
Yeah, like he was friendly with people. We pulled him, if I'm not mistaken, like away from like another guy when we like were talking to him.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those things. Like he's a very approachable person. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that can take him very far in the National Football League is that mindset, the attitude he has, the mentality he has, his personality. He's engaged now also. Like he's
He's gone.
very
If he
likable
wants
guy.
to, he's gonna do this too if he wants to.
I'm sure.
Like
I'm
in
sure he
terms of
can.
media.
I'm sure he can. And now he is the guy I really want with the Ravens. If one player
Yeah,
in the fourth or fifth round, we need a guy like that
we
at that
need.
spot too.
I
Like,
think we're gonna take Edge
Yeah.
around round 4, round 5,
yeah.
which is where
So
he's
this
projected.
would be like ideal
There,
for
it's a
more
real
than
fit.
one reason. Yeah. All right,
And
Josh.
we need guys on the edge who are good against the run, which watching his film, he is.
Josh,
And